right, so I have probably, well, not probably, definitely the board member that has been the longest active with us right now for 7 years. She's been with our organization volunteering and as a board member and advocating for our costs. She is skipping her glass of wine tonight, at least for the next couple of minutes, so that she can talk to us about the mission at SafeSpace, because really from the board perspective, nobody knows and has worked with the mission as much as Linda has, so or for as long too. So Linda, hi, how are you?
I'm good, Emmelis. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. I want everybody watching to understand what is the core of SafeSpace. What is our mission? I know everybody knows that we have certain programs. We have shelters, we have outreach, we have this, we have that. But what is our mission? Why are we organized in a common goal for domestic violence?
The mission of SafeSpace at its most basic level is to provide victims of domestic violence, men, women, and children, the tools to live on their own safely, and also, when needed, to provide them safe shelter, clothing, and legal assistance. We have the empowerment model that we use, which means that for people who have been controlled by their abuser, we let them make the decisions. Maybe they're making a mistake, but it's their decision, their mistake to make, and they learn and move forward from it. It has proven to be very helpful, and SafeSpace has been the domestic violence organization on the Treasure Coast for the last 40 years. So over 40 years, we have tried different things. This works. We're the only certified domestic violence organization on the Treasure Coast, and we're still in fiscal year 2019-2020. It ends at the end of June. So for fiscal year 2018-2019, which began July 1st, 2018, and went through June 30th, 2019, we provided over 13,000 bed nights. So 13,000 nights without fear, without violence, in safety, in shelter. And not every victim needs to go to shelter. Some have friends or family that they can shelter with or move away to. One of the things that got me involved with SafeSpace and domestic violence in particular was years ago when I had someone working for me, and an aunt had died and left her a little bit of money, and she got her teeth fixed, and her husband hit her. She came to work with a black eye, and this is in the 80s. So way before there was a SafeSpace, way before a lot was known about domestic violence, and way before there were shelters on an organized scale. So I saw her, she told me what had happened, and I didn't really know what to do for her or where to steer her. So this was in the 80s when I was still working for AT&T in New Jersey, and I was working at a headquarters building, and we had an employee assistance program. So I suggested that maybe she talk to one of the counselors there, that they might be able to give her some information. But over the course of, the last 40 years or so, I have met and worked with people who have been victims themselves or had friends who were victims. And I've always been struck by the inherent unfairness that someone who's a victim of abuse, who's being beaten, who's being controlled, is the one who has to uproot their life to be safe. And for the most part, their batterer has no real repercussions. It's gotten better. Now there are laws in place that are being enforced. So if 911 is called and the police come out to a domestic violence call, someone's getting arrested. Someone's spending the night in jail. And hopefully it's the abuser. which gives the victim or the survivor a chance to get away if they need to without having to worry about someone coming in and hurting them more. So we do work with the police. If a 911 call for a domestic violence incident is made, after an arrest is made, the officers will talk to the person who's not been arrested, try to get more information. Do they need to be directed to SafeSpace? Can they be directed to another organization? It depends on the lethality of the situation. For instance, St. Lucie County is has one of the highest lethality rates for domestic violence in the state. So we SafeSpace work with the Sheriff's Department in a program called Invest, and they identify every domestic violence incident. And we have counselors and advocates who reach out to all the victims to try and identify those that have the highest risk of lethality so that we can get them assistance before the situation gets to that point, whether it's with shelter or moving them to another organization within the state, helping them move out of state. There is a fund that the state provides for victims of domestic violence to utilize to move within the state, and I believe also outside of the state. We work with other organizations nationally and within the state to help victims who need assistance get to where they will be safest. We have a thrift store that provides clothing for the people that come to us in the middle of the night with nothing but the clothes on their back. And it also supplies household goods for the people who need to move out on their own, have never had their own place where they're safe, don't have beds or bedding or chairs or tables, and they need everything. So they can go to the thrift store, they can get whatever they need, SafeSpace provides it, and it's part of what our mission is, to support victims however they need it.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because we talked a little bit about the thrift store with Judy, and you know, the thrift store kind of brings three different ways of contributing to this, to our main goal, which is a strong stance against domestic violence and annihilating that evil as much as we can. But you know, the thrift store has three amazing angles. One is we have victims that come in and they're able to shop without needing actual dollars to buy. They can just get what
Correct.
And then we have people that bring donations that way so that our participants have access to those goods. And then at the same time, a way that the community can also help these victims is by coming to the thrift store to shop for goods for themselves too, because those dollars also help us help the participants in other programs that we need the assets from.
They do. The thrift store is one source of revenue. We get funding from state, federal, and local agencies, but there's a shortfall in the funding that the organization needs as a whole. So we need about $1 million a year in addition to the other funding that we get. And that is made up of thrift store revenue, donations, grants to local organizations. We rely on people donating funds directly. We do fundraisers, or other people have fundraisers to benefit SafeSpace. And all of that money goes to support everybody in the organization. It supports the shelters, the security for the shelters. It supports the advocates who work with the victims who don't need to come into shelter but still need legal assistance or thrift store or whatever.
I'm glad you brought that up, the funding, the federal and the state funding that we also receive, because I don't think a lot of people understand. Sometimes people think that getting federal and state grants, that just does it for the organization and that's it. But we would lose a lot of these federal and state grants if we weren't gathering assets or raising assets, I should say, raising funds from donors as well. It's kind of a matching plan. We have to raise X amount in order to continue to get X amount. And a lot of people, I don't think, realize that, which is why, situations like the coronavirus affect our organization so much, because we haven't shut down. I've been saying this the entire life. We haven't, the entire live feed. We haven't shut down one at all. The 24/7 hotline continues to work. Our shelter is still active. Our advocates are still out there. But the fundings have decreased because, some people are not working, or some people are not even thinking about charitable causes right now because they have their own situations to worry about. But as this open, we need those funds. God knows.
We really do, because not only do we need funds on an ongoing basis, we need roughly $100,000 a month funded from the community or grants or other non-governmental agencies to keep the organization running at the level where we can provide all the services that we do to the 3 counties that we're in, Indian River, St. Lucie, and Martin. But also, because of the pandemic and the stay-at-home orders, a lot of the abusers are now forcing their victims to stay inside. And it was bad before, and it's worse now. And nationally, globally, domestic violence calls have gone up. So it's not like stay at home, everything is great. It's great if you have a good relationship, not so great if you don't, because the close quarters, the stay at home, shelter in place, all of that exacerbates an already tense situation. And on top of everything else, you've got kids being homeschooled. So kids don't have the outlet of school to go out and burn off excess energy. They're coming home, they're staying in. Maybe they have a yard, maybe they don't. It's just really a tough situation, and we rely more than ever on the funding from the community for our services.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned that too, about the children staying with us. I don't think people realize that sometimes we have 50 individuals staying at our shelter at one time, and we've had that several times. And so when we reach capacity like that, and it's not for a couple of days, it's usually lasts a month or 2 months or 3 months when we're at capacity at that level. And that's expensive. You have 50 people you have to feed, you have 50 people you have to care for, 50 people you have to provide basic necessity items for.
Right.
The security is very important, because that's our main goal is to keep women safe. All victims, domestic violence victims, safe. And so the shelter needs security as well. So, that takes a community effort to raise the funds for that. And considering that we've had to cancel so many of our events, we really wanted to take this opportunity, especially during Mother's Day weekend. We have amazing mothers that work with our organization, our board members, our volunteers that are participants unfortunately, of our programs as well. And so let's give them a chance to succeed. And so
exactly,
perfect opportunity through Mother's Day weekend, as the name of this live stream, which is My Mother, My Safe Space. Let's give them a chance to move on with their lives in a successful way, so that they don't have to go back to the better. And it does take a community effort. And I have to bring up Vero Beach, because that's where you're at, and they have been amazing community partners with their organization, and we feel so blessed to continue to count with them throughout the year with all their different events, and just individual donors that reach out and say, you know what, I believe, like I said here earlier, #against domestic violence. The community in Vero Beach and the individual donors are feel really strong about supporting all victims of domestic violence, including children, that just, if it wasn't for us, they really would have either no place to go, nobody to rely to, or nobody to help guide them to get to the next step.
We really are a social safety net for the people who need it. Not everybody realizes how dire the situation can be. People don't realize that whether they know it or not, they are acquainted with victims of domestic violence, either in their past or currently. And no one wants to believe that their judgment is bad. You know, they can't believe that they know someone who would do something so terrible. But the reality is, abusers can be charming. We had an incident here 5 years ago, and 20-something nurse dating an investment manager, and didn't know that he was out on bail for domestic battery or domestic violence down in Broward County. He shifts his life up to Indian River County, and he's starting over. And he ended up killing her. And because of law enforcement in our county and Brevard County, because of the state's attorney in our district, we're in the 19th Judicial Circuit, he was finally convicted, even though he dragged the case on and on and on. But finally, her mother had, I don't want to say closure because there's no closing the death of a child, but at least she saw that justice was done. And I don't want to say that SafeSpace needs funding for that. Because of SafeSpace, there are other families that won't have to go through that. We have a program where the injunction for protection, more commonly known as a restraining order, can be filed. We have attorneys on staff working with over 400 people in fiscal year 2018, 2019, new people who came to SafeSpace needing that help. That's more than one a day. We had over 500, including participants who used our services prior to that fiscal year, who came back to us or still needed our services. Because the reality is, the injunction for protection is a piece of paper. If it's not enforced, if it's not renewed, sometimes they're for a limited time. So we're able to give that to anyone in SafeSpace who needs it. And if the attorneys are in the courthouse and see someone who's not currently a participant with SafeSpace, but they need our help, we give them that assistance also. It's not just for, you know, you don't have to be with SafeSpace in order to get that service. If you need it, we're here for you. And that's for any victim of domestic violence in our area. So we're very lucky, but that's one of the programs that is partially funded, where it's funded 75% through, I believe, federal and state funds, but the remaining 25% of the cost of that program, attorney's fees, whatever costs are associated with it, we have to provide. So donations help cover that 25% gap between the full cost of the program and the 75% funding that we're reimbursed from the state or federal for that program. And it's a necessary program. It's helped a lot of people. And you can't say that it's not needed. The numbers bear that out. It's very necessary. I wish that it wasn't. I wish that we did not need to exist, but we do. And for the people that we save, the lives that are saved, the women's whose lives, the children's whose lives, the men's whose lives are changed because they're able to get counseling, they're able to get legal access. Because here's the reality too with that legal program. Husband and wife will say, he's battering her, he gets arrested. The state will provide an attorney for him if he can't afford it. What happens to the victim? Right. If she can't afford an attorney, she is out of luck. But with the program that SafeSpace has, she now has a legal representation. She has legal assistance. She has someone who can help walk her through the system.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say it's legal representation that are experts within domestic violence issues, not just any representation of somebody who could take the case or charged a little bit less and therefore was inexpensive. But, you know, you brought all those great points, and, you know, this is a perfect time to ask you, help us gather that 25% right now. Click on that link that we're posting on the chat. I hope people are helping me post it on the chat. But yes, click that link, give us whatever it is that you're able to give. I always say, if you have the ability to give anything, it's not a matter of you should give, it's you must, because it takes a community to accomplish all these things. Linda, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking a couple of minutes to talk to us, and thank you so much for all the years of services to SafeSpace on our victims and victims of domestic violence. I know Vero Beach is very happy to have you in the community, so thank you so much. You have a great rest of the evening with your lovely husband. And
thanks. You too.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
So first, I want to thank everybody for tuning in throughout this live broadcast. So thank you so much for hanging out with us this Friday evening. I know you could be doing other things, but the fact that you chose to spend the last couple of, I think it's like, I don't know what, I don't even know how long it's been already, but thank you for spending that time with us. And we have Danny again, and Danny always has this great spirit, and he understands the mission that we're here working on, and so he has another very important message, and I want him to share it with you guys.
Thanks again, Emmelis, and welcome back, everybody. You know, giving thought to this, there's so many pieces of domestic violence, and you know, I want to go there with you all tonight, and I want to pull on your heartstrings. You know, there's a lot of women sharing an environment right now, enclosed in an environment with possibly their perpetrator. There's children that might be in another room with the door locked and closed in fear because that perpetrator is sitting in the same room or home, not treating mom well. You know, a lot of us are gonna look at our mothers if they're still alive and give them a call, give them a card, maybe spend some kind of time with them. But there's children with mothers that are in fear. There's women that are violently being abused right now as we speak. You know, I don't want to go in and talk about the horrific stories we hear, you know, the black and blue eyes, the hair pulled out, the faces beaten, scars, and literally can get very violent with even guns and other things. So we want to go there with you. And, you know, even though we're talking about SafeSpace, domestic violence, you know, throw out a prayer. Because as we're speaking right now, there are numerous amounts of domestic violence taking place. These guys, they don't have their norm. They don't have their job to go to. They don't have their escape. They don't have the bar to go to and get all juiced up. They come home to this environment and they're allowing that to be their life. And by the grace of God, we pray that, you know, we're not going to see some uglies come out of this in our Treasure Coast. So Emmelis, I had to go there. And, you know, $500 provides food for a month for a whole family in our domestic center. $5,000, again, I'm going back to it because someone did give, and we're thankful for you. But a year of transitional housing for a victim, supportive living program participant. You know, the typical stay is 8 weeks in an emergency shelter. So start to do the numbers, ladies and gentlemen. I want to go and tell you about two amazing couples. Mr. and Mrs. Stewart. God bless your heart, Mr. Stewart. He passed away this past year. And Miss Stewart, if you're watching tonight, we love you. And thank you for everything you, how do you do that? Do for us, the heart. I don't know, it's there. Thank you, Emmelis. And, you know, they have been incredibly huge donors of SafeSpace. If it wasn't for Mr. and Mrs. Stewart, we wouldn't be even speaking tonight. So Ms. Stewart, thank you. And Mr. Stewart, thank you. Margaret and Joe Temple, wow. How can we not speak about them? They just won the Francis Langford Award this past year, 2019. Big givers to SafeSpace. And folks, I'm not talking 100,000. I'm not talking 500,000. I'm talking in the millions. So why I say that is, it doesn't matter the amount. It doesn't matter that they gave $1 million plus. That means they're any better than you. But they stepped it up in the propensity that they are given, and their heartstrings were pulled. So again, we come back to the 5, the 10, the 20, the 30, the 40.
I always say, Danny, whatever your ability is to give. It's not a question of you should, is you must. So if your ability is to give $15, then it's not, maybe you should give the $15, it's you must give the $15 that you're able to get, because everything counts and everything helps with all the necessities that our victims have.
I mean, Emmelis, do they want to save a life tonight? Do they want to save a woman from dying today? Do they want to save children from losing their lives? People, listen, do you want to see a stop to domestic violence? Your dollars, whatever it is going to stop a death. It's going to put an end to this domestic violence issue all across our nation, and most importantly on the Treasure Coast. Folks, it's ugly. I don't want to break down the numbers. I'll let our police departments do that, because we hear it every day. And we have a staff that's working 24 hours a day through this pandemic. So I'm going to point over here a minute.
Have you ever walked in her shoes?
You know, Emmelis, I knew you were going to go there. And yes, I have. And what Emmelis is moving me towards is that one of our marquee events is walking a mile in her shoes. And guys, if you're watching tonight, when we do this again this year, I want you to show up. That bag was full of $1 bills, $5 bills, $10 bills, $20 bills, checks for 1,000, checks for 5,000, by partners in our community that participated. The guys stepped it up. And you see these two numbers in these shoes here. I don't know if you can see that, but they say 88. I want to pledge right now for $88. Is there 10 guys out there that'll pledge $88? Is there 20 guys that'll pledge $88? Start doing the math. 50 guys doing $88. Guys, that's nothing. That's under $100. Are you kidding me? You'll go out on the weekend and spend $100 eating and drinking and do whatever you do. You'll go to a sporting event. So I challenge you right now, 88, do it. 10, 20, I want 50 guys. I'll take 100 guys at $88, all right? What I'm gonna do, guys, right now, you see these shoes? Yeah, you might have a little fun with them, or you might think, really? But I could tell you sheriffs, I could tell you fire department captains, I can tell you police officers, I can tell you CEOs throughout the Treasure Coast, lawyers, big-time lawyers that have donned these shoes. They placed them on their feet like this, okay? They've taken the second one, they placed it on their foot like this. See that? Both of them on my feet. Then they stood up. And when they stood up, they began to take a step in these shoes, putting one step forward to end this domestic violence, to take control back for the women that are suffering. And guys, we walk in these, and we hold banners, and we step it up for the women that don't have that opportunity, and we're doing it for them to stop this ugly, ugly disease, because it is, it's horrific. So Emmelis, that's why we don these beautiful red shoes. And you know, guys, it's what it's all about.
I have to give it to you because I can't even wear heels that high myself. So kudos to you. Kudos to all the men that join us in our mission every time that we do walk a mile in her shoes. Danny, you've never said no once. I think you're gonna like the heels too. I don't know, we can talk about that.
Well, you know what? I can sprint a little bit in these guys, and I can walk backwards in them too. But I'm always challenged every year. And I got to do a shout out to Ray and his beautiful wife, the Smangles here in Tradition, where we did our last walk. It was one of our most successful walks. And through their tutelage and through their giving back to the community and their relationship and partnership building, we were able to take that, Emmelis, up to another level. So we're looking forward to you guys this year.
And
Stay tuned.
You mentioned the $88. Sometimes women spend $88 on a new pair of shoes. So why don't we skip that pair of shoes? I challenge women out there. I challenge men to join Danny on the $88 challenge. And I challenge women to donate the equivalent of the pair of shoes that they would buy this weekend. And I know I'm a shoe addict over here. The equivalent of the pair of shoes that you would buy this month, give it to SafeSpace, and put your mother's name in the chat room when you do, because we want to know that you do it in honor of your mother. Because you know what? My mother is my SafeSpace.
Oh, Emmelis, that is beautiful said, and you're right on. And we want to give every child that's under the threat of violence a memory of a mother that they will always look back at. They'll love, and they'll be always cherish, and to hold dear to their heart that they had Mother's Days, and they can look upon their mother, and they won't see their mother beaten and bruised, and they won't even have a mother that maybe even will be caused in death. And I am crying, and that's okay, because at the end of the day, it's truly about walking a mile in her shoes. Go to the phones, I don't care, go to the link, start clicking on, guys, ladies, kids, give the widow's mite. But know that every dollar, from 1 to 100 to 1,000,000, I don't care what that number is, it's going to be used successfully to change the lives of children and families. And Emmelis, I can't thank you enough. And folks, we love you. SafeSpace is here for you.
Thank you so much, Danny, for that powerful message. And thank you for everybody who has hung out with us for the last whatever long this was. But thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. I know I speak on behalf of the board that we're very thankful and appreciative of the community. And we need you continuously.
Yes,
Please continue to support us. I want you to know that I really need you to also share this video when we're done now. I need you to share this video so that your contacts can also see what we're doing and get them to join you in supporting us. And I need you to also know that you can share our website information, share our posts, like our page on Facebook, SafeSpace, like it on Facebook, also so that you can continue to get up-to-date information on what we're doing. But for today, share this link, share this video, and let the message be spread to the word that you are standing against domestic violence. So excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you, Keaney. Go have a glass of wine with your lovely. I love the shoes. You can take them off now, but I love the shoes. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye, everybody.